Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, so, you know, that really indicates a weak link. There's that problem, and her question is about a property transaction that occurred where that evaluation of the system wasn't done as it was required by ordinance starting in 2000. There's two weak links in this problem. One is real estate agents not following up on that or not knowing, and the other is the linkage between environmental health and the assessor's office, that they're not telling us when their database changes and a property ownership changes.
And do you have a list of approved plumbing people or whatever it is you use to get these changes made?
Yes, we maintain a list of contractors that are approved to do that type of evaluation, and they're approved based on them demonstrating to us that they've passed a certification course.
I mean approved then to make the changes is what I'm talking about. On level 2 changes.
Basically, you've got to have a general contractor's license in order to do that. Gentleman with the blue shirt, and then you, ma'am.
When the ordinance was passed in the year 2000, it was primarily in response to problems that had developed in the North and South Valley, where they had a very, very shallow groundwater table, where they did not have sewers at the time. It made good sense. They didn't think, at the time they passed it, that this was going to affect the rest of the county, didn't think of the implications of that. Is it possible that our county commissioners can rescind either this ordinance or modify this ordinance in response to a much more technically based requirement for groundwater protection and still meet the Federal Clean Water Act requirements and the state groundwater protection requirements?
I think the short answer to that is yes. Would anybody like me to repeat the question?
Yes.
His question is whether by an act of the county commission that the ordinance could be changed, modified, rescinded, or whatever word you want to put there, to make it so that Sandia Heights doesn't face this problem in 2015. And I believe the answer is yes, and there's a variety of ways of doing that, okay? It gets really outside my realm. So, I mean, the way I'm moving forward is basically, I've got this requirement coming up in 2015. I want to get the word out starting now that this is coming up. And the discussion that results, I'd be happy to participate in.
I'd like to also, we're referring to the Bernalillo County ordinance, but one of the, there's also other regulations that apply statewide, and basically the state liquid waste regulations are applicable even in Bernalillo County. Basically, our regulation and the state's regulation are basically fairly close. There's a few differences, but in terms of lot size, that's not necessarily driven by the county ordinance entirely in itself. It's actually based on state law. So I just wanted, it's not just a Bernalillo County requirement. It's a requirement that's based throughout the state.
But elsewhere, other than Bernalillo County, if you can show that the nitrate loading, because of the size of the lot, or the types of soils, or the geologic conditions, or the distance to groundwater, well, you can be exempted from it. Why are we suddenly the only ones that have to be treated en masse with this rather non-technical requirement based on simply lot size and number of bedrooms?
The state regulations are based on lot size. They're basically the same. They're based on the same criteria that our ordinance is based on. It's strictly based on lot size and not nitrogen loading. So there is, if you look at the state regulations, basically there are different criteria. There are some different categories, but basically it is very pretty much the same requirement as ours. And we can sit down and go through that if you like at a later time, and that way you have a better understanding of that.
Okay, it's a simple question because I just don't understand this. If I live in a lot that's 0.72 acres, is my drainage field that much shorter than somebody who has 0.75 and doesn't cover it, and we have the same amount of bedrooms and everything? What is this difference between 3/4 of an acre? Aren't these all systems made the same, no matter what kind of lot you're in?
The system is based on the amount of flow it was designed to receive. So it's quite possible that the system that's on a lot of 0.8 acres is quite similar to a system that's on a lot of 0.7 acres.
So
Okay,
why would I be punished for that?
it's based on the calculation of nitrogen loading.
Yeah, but, okay, there's only two of us in a little less than 3/4 acre house.
Okay, so my question would be, when you are no longer living in that house, and a family of 6 moves in, or a family of 4, or whomever could be accommodated by that number of bedrooms, what happens then?
Well, can't they put some kind of regulator on this? And what happens if I feed my septic system with these enzymes? Doesn't that help? We do that every month.
I've seen a lot of mixed results with that, and I think the most skeptical answer I could give you for that would be snake oil. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. I'm sorry. I mean, your reaction is kind of like, oh gosh, this guy just hit me. But you know, there's no requirement that those types of things be used, because we try to rely on routine maintenance to make the system last as long as it should. And routine maintenance includes frequently pumping out the tank and other kind of stuff.
Does the enzymes don't work at all? Is that what you're saying?
I haven't really looked at the evidence of whether they do or don't work, okay? You know, so.
Hi, I'm a realtor, and I've just sold 4 homes in the last 2 weeks in Sandia Heights. And I invited Otto to be here for a lot of you that have not heard about this ordinance, because he's one of the most honest, knowledgeable people that I see. And so if you have questions, I'm giving a little plug, because I do think that you are very knowledgeable.
You want to step to the microphone?
Yeah. With my experience with that, the septic systems range from 8,000, and sometimes they're up to 34,000 in Sandia Heights, because we don't know the soil. We might have boulders and granite, and so you can't really say, okay, it's going to be $8,000. So let's assume that the majority of us here have $20,000 septic systems we're going to have to upgrade to. I will, have a 5-bedroom house on 0.56 acres. Is there any plan for researching doing a sewer system up here? I've got to believe that putting a sewer system, whether we want it or not, in Sandia Heights would probably be more cost effective than a bunch of us having to come up with $20,000 to each put in a new septic system. Is there any plan to at least evaluate that?
Not that I'm aware of, okay, but I know Bernalillo County Public Works Department is, you know, one of the things they do is the financial analysis, and they go out and get the funds, and they go out and, you know, contract with the people that are actually going to lay the pipes in the ground. I haven't spoken to anybody in Public Works about whether or not there's a plan to extend sewer to this part of the county or not. I know a lot of and Commissioner Reiner is nodding his head that there is. Is that correct? Okay, so
Because North Valley did, because I go there, I've been researching this since 2000, because I am one of the realtors that does make sure everybody knows. And so when I've gone to the county, I worked with Keith Chavez, who recently left, and Sandia Heights was never on the list for being evaluated. Now, a lot of the areas in North Valley have already done that and already put the sewer systems in and saved, you know, it cost them $2,000 to hook into the system. I'd rather pay $2,000 than $20,000 if it's effective for the community. So last I checked, Sandia Heights wasn't on the list to be evaluated. Okay, what do we need to do as a community to get that to happen? Okay, I'm sorry.
okay, let me take 2 more questions, and then Commissioner Reiner, would you like to come up after that? Gentleman in the back.
I'd like to just ask a question on the validity of that. My deed says my lot is 0.89 acres, but it's got a red line.
Okay, that's a good question, thank you. I tried to cover that a little bit earlier. Basically, this is a GIS coverage that's based on county assessor data, okay? And recently, I've seen somebody who's, you know, been informed by my office that their lot size was, you know, 0.72 acres or something. And they said, oh no, I have a survey that shows that it's greater. And they took it down to the assessor's office, and in a fairly uncomplicated meeting, where the person, I think, had to go back to the office twice because she forgot a piece of documentation, the county assessor adjusted the record to show that the lot was what she said it was by the virtue of the survey, okay?
That will require a visit.
Likely.